Dr. West, I know you were in Charlottesville over the weekend. Can you just talk about what you witnessed on Friday night during the neo-Nazi torch march that surrounded, I believe, the church that you were in? I read that you said you'd never seen that kind of hatred in your life.
Well, I'd never seen that kind of hatred up front on Saturday when 20 of us stood there and watched as various neo-fascist units marched and looked us straight in the face and cussed and so forth and so on. But Friday night, of course, we had the Nazi-like torch march where we were held hostage in St. Paul's Memorial Church with Brother Seth and Sister Brittany and Brother Peyton and Sister Elaine and Brother Sekou, all of us trying to bring together black, white, red, yellow. We had Jewish brothers, sisters, we had Christian, we had Buddhists, and others trying to bear witness to love and justice in the face of this vicious white supremacy. So it was a two-day moment in which I think I witnessed one of the lowest moments in the history of the American empire. We're already in deep decay. We got military outreach, we got corruption among our elites, and we've got a culture that is collapsing in terms of a spiritual blackout. And unfortunately, we have a president who has normalized mendacity, made lies a normal way of life. So you can't trust him. He has no ethical authority. He has no moral credibility, unfortunately. And so somehow we've got to engage in prophetic fight back. We've got to be not self-righteous, but try to bear witness to truth and to justice at a very, very bleak moment in the history of this nation.
Paris, I mean, yes, the president disavowed these groups today by name. Why not denounce them full stop on Saturday, and why equivocate and say there are many sides, as he did twice on Saturday?
Well, Anderson, I think if we're going to be factual, the president disavowed David Duke and the KKK of March of 2016, and then he did make the statement.
Well, actually, wait a minute, I got to stop you right there. Yes, he ultimately disavowed David Duke, but I'm going to play for you right now what he first said when asked by Jake Tapper about this, because the facts matter on this. So let's just play that, what he said about David Duke.
I want to ask you about the Anti-Defamation League, which this week called on you to publicly condemn, unequivocally, the racism of former KKK Grand Wizard David Duke, who recently said that voting against you at this point would be treason to your heritage. Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
Well, just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, did he endorse me or what's going on? Because, you know, I know nothing about David Duke. I know nothing about white supremacists. And so you're asking me a question that I'm supposed to be talking about people that I know nothing about.
I'm just talking about David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan here, but...
I don't know, honestly, I don't know David Duke. I don't believe I've ever met him. I'm pretty sure I didn't meet him, and I just don't know anything about him.
So, Paris, that's the candidate for president of the United States claiming not only doesn't know anything about David Duke, but doesn't know anything about white supremacists.
Right, and so if we're going to talk about facts, Anderson, we can play what he said in March of 2016, a few days later, when he disavowed David Duke.
Right, but why does it take, you know, however many days for somebody to just disavow a known racist who everybody knows who David Duke is? The guy who's running for president certainly knows who David Duke is.
Well, I mean, look, not everybody knows who David Duke is. President Trump,
he doesn't know what white supremacists are.
Anderson, I didn't come on the show to go back and to talk about whether or not he knew someone or what he did not know.
Okay, you brought it up though. So
no, I didn't bring up the February. I brought up March, which you cared not show. When he did disavow David Duke, and he did disavow the KKK. And then a couple days ago, he gave a strong, in my opinion, strong words saying that those hatred, bigotry, and violence have no place in American society. And then today, he doubled down what he said a few days ago, and then went further and talked about white supremacy, neo-Nazis, and things of that nature, which are horrific. That's what the president did.
Okay, but so, Dr. West, I mean, the president who has criticized many
Brother
people by
Anderson,
name.
Brother
But
Anderson,
Dr. West, the president.
Listen,
Go ahead.
let's be honest, though. I mean, Brother Parrish, you got checkmated by Brother Anderson. You know the president was lying. He knows about David Duke. He knows about white supremacy. He's been in America for a good while. You got to defend him in order to keep your job. We understand that, but let's try to focus on truth.
No, Brother West,
Brother West. What is the case for a second here, my brother? Come on, man. People have died. I knew Sister Heather. She was with us. If it were not for her and the anarchists, the neo-fascists would have crushed us like cockroaches on Saturday. This is life and death, man. This ain't no game we playing. This ain't no puzzle for people to keep their jobs. There's human beings out here who are suffering, and we got a neo-fascist movement escalating. And if we can't focus on the truth, then we just give up on the American project and be honest and say we just want to keep our jobs. Well, I'm not into that, but I wasn't raised like that, man. I believe in the truth. I believe in justice, whether it goes against me or for me. You're going to be honest or you're not going to be honest. The president's going to be honest or he's not going to be honest. Anderson trying to keep you accountable. We got to keep each other accountable. That's where I'm coming from, brother.
Dr. West, my brother, please don't insinuate that I wasn't raised correctly, and please don't insinuate when you don't have the facts about who employs me.
If you're lying, if you're going to lie for the president, the president's lying, man. He's lying.
I am not employed, Dr. West. I'm not employed by Donald Trump. I'm not employed by the White House. They do not employ me or pay my check.
Why you defend the liar in general?
I'm not defending a liar.
Why you gotta defend the liar, man?
I'm not defending a liar, man.
He's lying when he said he didn't know about David Duke.
Well, I don't know that to be true. All I'm saying is, you want to talk about facts. Last Thursday,
Ask him, man. You know him better than I do.
That's very true.
Come on, brother.
And you knew President Obama very well, and you knew that after
That's
Charleston.
right. And I told the truth about Obama.
You sure did.
I told the
You
truth
sure
about
did.
Obama.
You
I
sure
told the
did.
truth
And
about
after
Negroes
Charleston,
on the Obama plantation. I tell the truth about Negroes on the Trump plantation. The truth cuts a number of different ways, my brother.
and all I will say is, when you want to talk about truth, the truth is, last Thursday, ICE talked about the fact that they prosecuted the largest number of white supremacists in history. I think it was 89 members of violent white supremacist gangs were convicted, totaling more than 1,070 years in prison. These are positive steps. So words do matter, but actions matter even more. And I am proud to see that this government and this administration is moving forward and doing these things. But as it relates to...
Well, see, but...
No, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
No, so
no, what I'm saying is this. Because I believe the truth is bigger than all of us. But I believe this. From what I can see, the person that you are defending, Brother Donald Trump, he's got neo-fascist sensibilities, brother. He's complicitous with a lot of what's going on by fanning and fueling the scapegoating of these precious immigrants, these precious gays and lesbians and trans and bisexuals and black people and yellow people. He has been fueling this. We have evidence of this. But the truth is bigger than both of us. But let's just be honest, man. Much is at stake. And this is not no corporate media game we playing here in order to pursue our careers. That's not what I'm into. And I pray, God, that's not what you are fundamentally into either.
Harris, do you have any concerns that, Maggie Haberman in the New York Times, who's going to be out here shortly, wrote today about Steve Bannon, that he has been, in general, counseling the president not to speak out about far-right groups because they are admittedly a small but a vocal, enthusiastic, I believe was the word she used, supporters of the president. I mean, do you have any concerns that this president, it does seem that there is a pattern of, saying he doesn't know what white supremacists are, he doesn't know who David Duke is, of not going after these groups. I mean, he goes after by name anybody he doesn't like. Even today, before he went after, when he mentioned the KKK, he went after the CEO of Merck, who happens to be African-American, for leaving the Manufacturing Council. He didn't have a problem immediately going after that guy, but he has a problem immediately naming the most abhorrent groups in America.
Look, all I know, Anderson, is that the president disavowed back in March. He made a very bold statement 2 days ago, and he clarified the statement and went further today. I have no issue with what the president said, because I think what the president said was correct. And when it comes to his associations with Steve Bannon and other people like that, there is no evidence, there are no facts and no proof that Steve Bannon is whispering in his ear, telling him not to disavow, not to say these things. Because what we know is the president has disavowed. The president has called these people out and said and called them by name, which is something President Obama did not do after Charleston.
Well, first of all, after Charleston,
Bannon
it wasn't.
is one of the persons he needs to call out. Bannon needs to be called out. Bannon's been a fundamental figure of facilitating a lot of this xenophobia and scapegoating the most vulnerable of our fellow human beings in this empire, in this country, and he's got Bannon right next to him in the White House.
Dr. West,
What
let
are we
me
talking about?
just ask you, Paris said that the president's initial statement on Saturday was correct, and one of the things the president said is that there was violence on many sides, on many sides.
That's not true.
I'm
It's
asking
not on
you,
our side. It was not on our side at all.
Was there violence on many
Absolutely,
sides?
it's not on our side at all. Not at all. It's not at all. That's PR strategy. That's sounding brass and tinkling cymbal. We standing there singing "This Little Light of Mine" and about to get crushed. The light, our bodies, and our prophetic witness. It shriveled up. There was no space for love and justice given that vicious hatred. And we had the left, we had the anarchists, we had the anti-fascists. They were trying to both protect us, but they were also letting the neo-fascists know that there was opposition in this nation. Now, what's sad, though, Anderson, I'm going to tell you this, that we didn't see you all in those churches at St. Paul's. We didn't see you in First Baptist Historically Black Church there in Charlottesville, 153 years old, because of those church moments where Reverend Traci Blackmon gave a powerful sermon and Professor Jelaine Smith spoke, and I said a few words. And then when I spoke at the Sunrise, it was about a love and justice, not a kumbaya, but a focus on any people who are vulnerable, no matter what color, no matter what nation, no matter what sexual orientation, you're disabled or whatever. We don't get that kind of prophetic witness. Why? Because it's so hard for that to be sellable in corporate media. So all we get is just an ugly, vicious conflict. And then when the space for prophetic witness shrivels up, lo and behold, we look back and see how bad things are. There's a lot of decent people in America, but they don't have access to a space, and so they remain spectators rather than participants.
Anderson, I think that's an important point. I'll be brief. There's an important point that Dr. West just made. When I turned on the television and watched, I saw fighting. I saw people going back and forth. I didn't know who was fighting. It thought to me, why would racists be fighting each other? So I assumed that there were the racists were fighting the peaceful protesters that were there, and there was violence going back and forth. That's what I saw, and that was my assumption based on what I saw on the television. Dr. West, who's on the ground, is telling us a different thing. But this is what happens. You get wrong information. You see things that are on the media. You see things on the television, and you make a snap judgment. And I believe that's what the president did when he went off the cuff remarks saying violence on many sides, because what I saw when I turned on the television were people fighting back and forth. And I assumed, Dr. West is correcting this, but I assumed that many things happen like that when you don't have actual hard intelligence and things that are going wrong and going right.
I guess my concern is that the President of the United States should have access to information from law enforcement and many sources
So
about
true,
what's
Anderson.
happening,
Let's go back to
rather
Katrina.
than turning around and watching it on whatever TV shows he happens to be watching. I think the president, before speaking to the nation, might want to have the information from law enforcement, from people who he's speaking to. We got to leave the
Same exact
conversation
thing
there.
happened to President George W. Bush with Katrina. They didn't let him go down because they said it was too much violence and all these things that turned out not to be true. That's the reason why he didn't go down. It's hard to get the right intelligence. People make mistakes. We should give him the latitude and the grace to get it right. And I think he's on that path.
I would just point out
That's
that
not
about
true. He
18
tweeted about Sister Heather.
I would just point
right
out about
after it
18
happened.
Right, just for the record, 1,800 people or more, brothers and sisters, fellow American citizens, lost their lives in